There are some mysteries that just refuse to die. They dig their hooks into our collective imagination and hang on for centuries, even millennia. Think about it. Jack the Ripper, the Bermuda Triangle, the treasure of Oak Island. But there's one legend that stands head and shoulders above the rest. It's the Everest of historical enigmas, the ultimate cold case. I'm talking, of course, about Atlantis. For thousands of years we've been captivated by the story of a magnificent island civilization that possessed incredible wealth, advanced technology, and unparalleled power, only to vanish beneath the waves in a single, terrible day and night. It's a tale that has everything: adventure, tragedy, and the tantalizing possibility of a lost world waiting to be rediscovered. The search for Atlantis isn't just for armchair adventurers or wild-eyed theorists. It has drawn in serious scholars, respected archaeologists, and determined explorers, all chasing the ghost of a story first told over 2 millennia ago. Why? Because if Atlantis was real, its discovery would rewrite history. It would prove that a highly advanced Bronze Age superpower existed, one that we knew nothing about. The lure of that possibility is just too strong to ignore. We're hardwired to explore, to push the boundaries of our world and our knowledge. The idea of a lost continent is the ultimate X on the treasure map of human history. The story has been a siren's call for generations. It has inspired countless books, movies, and expeditions, each one adding another layer to the myth. But beneath all the fantasy and fiction, there's a kernel of a question that keeps us coming back. Could it be true? Could a civilization of such magnitude really disappear without a trace? As an explorer, I've learned that sometimes the most outlandish stories have a sliver of truth hiding within them. The hunt for Atlantis is the perfect example of that relentless human spirit. It's a quest for answers, a search for a lost chapter of our own story. As we stand here in 2025, the search is more alive than ever. We have technology at our disposal that past generations could only dream of. We can map the seafloor in stunning detail, send robotic drones into the abyss, and analyze geological data with incredible precision. The mystery of Atlantis is no longer just a philosophical puzzle, it's a solvable one. The clues are scattered across ancient texts, hidden in the geology of our planet, and buried deep beneath the ocean. The challenge is immense, the odds are long, but the potential reward is immeasurable. The hunt is on, and the secrets of the deep are waiting. The question isn't just where is Atlantis, but what can it teach us when we finally find it? To understand the hunt for Atlantis, you have to go back to the source. The legend of Atlantis comes from one of the most brilliant minds of the ancient world, the Greek philosopher Plato. Around 360 BCE, he wrote about it in 2 of his dialogues, the Timaeus and the Critias. He tells us the story was passed down from Egyptian priests to the Athenian statesman Solon, who then told it to Plato's ancestor. Plato describes Atlantis as an island continent, larger than Libya and Asia combined, located just beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we know today as the Strait of Gibraltar. It was an empire of staggering power and sophistication. The capital city was a marvel of engineering, built on a series of concentric rings of land and water. The canals were filled with ships from all over the world, and the land was rich with exotic animals, including elephants. The Atlanteans built magnificent temples sheathed in precious metals like gold, silver, and a mysterious gleaming red metal called orichalcum. They were a naval powerhouse with a mighty fleet and a vast army that they used to conquer parts of Europe and Africa. But Plato's story is not just a travelogue of a lost paradise, it's a cautionary tale. In the beginning, the Atlanteans were noble and virtuous, descended from Poseidon, the god of the sea. But as time went on, their divine nature became diluted with mortal blood. Greed and ambition began to corrupt their souls. They became arrogant, decadent, and hungry for more power. They forgot the values that had made them great and set out on a final hubristic campaign to conquer the rest of the known world, including Athens. This is where the story turns into a lesson. The ancient Athenians, embodying the ideal state, stood against the mighty Atlantean Empire, and against all odds, defeated them. But the final judgment came not from man, but from the gods themselves. As punishment for their arrogance and corruption, the gods unleashed a terrible cataclysm. Plato writes that in a single day and night of misfortune, there were violent earthquakes and floods. The island of Atlantis was swallowed by the sea and vanished forever, leaving behind nothing but an impassable layer of mud. Plato's message was clear. No matter how powerful a civilization becomes, hubris and moral decay will lead to its ultimate downfall. Ever since Plato penned his tale, the world has been divided into 2 camps. On one side, you have those who believe Atlantis was a real, historical place, a lost continent just waiting to be found. On the other, you have those who argue it was a purely fictional invention, a philosophical allegory created by Plato to make a point about politics and ethics. This debate has raged for over 2,000 years, and both sides have some compelling arguments. It's a classic case of historical interpretation where the lines between myth, memory, and metaphor become incredibly blurred. The truth, as it so often does, might be somewhere in the middle. The argument for a real Atlantis hinges on the way Plato presents the story. He is meticulous with details, gives specific measurements for the city, describes its political structure, and even provides a genealogy for its kings. Crucially, he presents the tale not as a myth, but as a genuine historical account passed down through reliable sources, starting with Egyptian priests. However, the skeptics have a powerful case. They point out one massive problem. Not a single other ancient writer mentions Atlantis. Skeptics argue that Plato invented Atlantis as a literary device. He needed a powerful, corrupt villain to contrast with his idealized vision of ancient Athens. This ambiguity is precisely what makes the legend so powerful. It leaves just enough room for belief, just enough of a hook for explorers to hang their hopes on. The debate itself fuels the quest. It forces us to question how we interpret ancient texts and what we consider to be proof. It's this very tension between fact and fiction that keeps the mystery alive. Even if Plato invented the city of Atlantis, his story didn't come from nowhere. He was likely inspired by real events and places from the ancient world. History is filled with tales of entire civilizations wiped out by cataclysmic disasters, and these historical echoes provide some of the most compelling theories for what might have sparked the Atlantis legend. The most popular real-world candidate for Atlantis is the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete and the nearby island of Thera, now known as Santorini. Around 1600 BCE, the volcano on Thera erupted in one of the most violent explosions in human history. The eruption triggered massive tsunamis, blanketed the region in ash, and likely led to the swift decline of the Minoan civilization. Another fascinating possibility lies closer to Plato's home. In 373 BCE, just a few years before Plato wrote his dialogues, the Greek city of Helika was completely destroyed overnight by an earthquake and then submerged by a tsunami. These examples show us that the kind of catastrophe Plato described wasn't just a fantasy. The ancient world was a dangerous place, and people lived with the constant threat of earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunamis. The memory of these events would have been deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness. Plato could have drawn on the story of the Minoans for the grand scale of his lost empire and the destruction of Helike for the specifics of its demise. By grounding his philosophical tale in the reality of natural disasters, he created something far more powerful and enduring, a legend that feels true because in a way it has happened before. For decades, the search for Atlantis has focused on a handful of key locations, Santorini, the Azores, the Caribbean, but one area has consistently drawn interest, the region around southern Spain, just outside the Pillars of Hercules. In 2011, a team using satellite imagery identified what looked like a submerged city in the marshlands of Donana National Park, near the city of Cádiz. Now in 2025, new findings from a team led by archaeologist Michael Donnellan have breathed new life into this theory, providing what could be the most tantalizing physical evidence to date. Donnellan's team has been using advanced ground-penetrating radar and underwater sonar to map the geology beneath the marshes. Their data has revealed a series of large concentric rings buried deep beneath the silt. These formations are massive, spanning several kilometers, and their geometric precision is hard to explain as a natural phenomenon. The team has uncovered evidence of ancient complex structures, including seawalls and large buildings. Core samples drilled from the site have been dated to the late Bronze Age. Of course, this is where we have to pump the brakes a little. The scientific community remains deeply skeptical, and for good reason. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Critics argue that the concentric rings could be natural geological formations, and no definitive human-made structures have been fully excavated yet. The Donnellan findings are a massive step forward, a huge clue, but they are not yet a smoking gun. The hard work of careful, peer-reviewed excavation has only just begun. The hunt for lost worlds is no longer about following crumbling maps and hoping to stumble upon a set of ruins. Today's explorers are armed with a high-tech toolkit that is completely revolutionizing archaeology, especially underwater. We are in a new golden age of discovery, where technology is allowing us to see into the depths in ways that were once the stuff of science fiction. We can now explore vast areas of the ocean floor, peer beneath layers of silt and sand, and create detailed three-dimensional models of what we find, all without getting our feet wet. The game changer is advanced sonar technology. Multibeam sonar can map massive swaths of the seabed in incredibly high resolution, revealing the subtle outlines of what might be man-made structures hidden by centuries of sediment. Autonomous underwater vehicles, which are essentially robotic submarines, can be programmed to patrol a search grid for days or weeks at a time, collecting sonar data, magnetic readings, and high-definition video. Remotely operated vehicles are tethered to a ship and piloted in real time by an operator on the surface. These ROVs are equipped with robotic arms, cameras, and an array of sensors. They can perform delicate tasks like dusting off an artifact, taking a core sample, or even conducting a small excavation. This flood of new data is then processed using powerful computer software to create stunningly detailed three-dimensional maps and virtual reality reconstructions. We can now digitally drain the ocean and walk through the streets of a submerged city on a computer screen. This technology not only helps archaeologists plan future excavations, but also allows the public to experience these lost worlds in a visceral way. The modern explorer's toolkit is transforming the search for Atlantis from a speculative fantasy into a systematic scientific investigation. The secrets of the deep are vast, but for the first time in history, we have the tools to read them. While Atlantis holds the title for the most famous lost city, it's important to remember that it is far from the only one. All around the world there are real, confirmed underwater cities and lost lands that prove civilizations can and do vanish beneath the waves. One of the most spectacular examples is the ancient city of Thonis Heracleion, off the coast of Egypt. For centuries it was thought to be a legend, known only from ancient texts. Then, in the year 2000, archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team discovered it, submerged under 30 feet of water in the Mediterranean. What they found was breathtaking: colossal statues of pharaohs and gods, dozens of shipwrecks, gold coins, and the remarkably preserved foundations of temples and homes. The entire city sank into the sea in the 8th century AD after a combination of earthquakes and liquefaction turned the clay soil it was built on into liquid. Off the coast of India, in the Gulf of Cambay, lies the potential site of the legendary city of Dwarka, the fabled home of the Hindu deity Krishna. In 2001, oceanographers conducting pollution surveys stumbled upon a vast expanse of geometric structures more than 120 feet below the surface. And then there's Doggerland, a vast expanse of land that once connected Great Britain to mainland Europe. Around 6500 BCE, a catastrophic underwater landslide triggered a massive tsunami that inundated what was left of Doggerland, wiping its people and their world off the map. These real submerged places, Heracleion, Dwarka, Doggerland, prove that the story of Atlantis is not just plausible, it's a recurring theme in human history. If we strip away the treasure maps and the conspiracy theories, what are we left with? At its heart, the story of Atlantis is not about a lost city of gold. It's a profound philosophical lesson about the dangers of power. Plato wasn't just telling a bedtime story. He was crafting a powerful allegory about society, ethics, and the cyclical nature of history. Atlantis was his ultimate case study in civilizational collapse. He uses its rise and fall to send a clear and timeless warning: greatness is fragile, and the same qualities that lead a society to power can also lead to its ruin if left unchecked. The key to understanding Plato's message is the concept of hubris. In Greek tragedy, hubris is an extreme and dangerous form of pride or arrogance that leads a protagonist to defy the gods, ultimately causing their own downfall. This is exactly what happens to the Atlanteans. They begin as a virtuous and noble people, but their immense wealth and military might corrupt them. They become greedy, arrogant, and power-hungry. They believe they are invincible. Their final military campaign against Athens is the ultimate act of hubris, an overreach that seals their fate. Plato contrasts the corrupt empire of Atlantis with his vision of an ideal, ancient Athens. By having this small, virtuous state defeat the mighty Atlantean Empire, Plato is making a powerful statement. Moral strength is superior to material and military strength. This message is as relevant today in 2025 as it was in 360 BCE. Plato's story is a mirror, forcing us to look at our own society. We live in an age of incredible technological advancement, global power struggles, and immense wealth concentrated in the hands of a few. The story of Atlantis serves as a powerful reminder that these things are not enough. Without wisdom, humility, and a strong moral compass, any society, no matter how advanced, is vulnerable to collapse. Plato is warning us that the greatest threats to a civilization often come not from external enemies, but from corruption and arrogance within. So, what is the final verdict on Atlantis in 2025? The truth is, the jury is still out. The tantalizing new clues from Spain have reignited the search, but we still lack that definitive, undeniable proof. We haven't found the Atlantean equivalent of King Tut's tomb, but in a way that doesn't matter. The real power of Atlantis has never been about a physical place on a map. Its true location is in our collective imagination. It's a story that has transcended its origins to become a modern myth, a symbol of all that we have lost and all that we still hope to find. The legacy of Atlantis is all around us, deeply embedded in our popular culture. It has inspired blockbuster movies, television shows, and video games. Atlantis has become a versatile and enduring trope, a shorthand for any lost, highly advanced ancient civilization. Beyond the screen, the story of Atlantis continues to fuel a fringe world of conspiracy theories. Some believe the Atlanteans were not human at all, but aliens who brought advanced technology to Earth. Others claim that a handful of Atlanteans survived the cataclysm and became the secret masters of ancient civilizations. While these ideas are fun to think about, it's important to state clearly that there is zero scientific evidence to support any of them. In the end, the search for Atlantis is really a search for ourselves. Whether Atlantis was a real place or a philosophical lesson, its meaning endures. It teaches us about the dangers of arrogance, the fragility of civilization, and the awesome power of the natural world. The legend pushes us to explore the deepest oceans and to question the foundations of our own history, and that is why Atlantis will never truly be lost. As long as we have oceans to explore and a past to uncover, we will continue to hunt for its ghost, forever chasing the echo of a story that has captivated us for millennia. If you love unraveling mysteries, exploring true crime, or diving into the world of historical enigmas and conspiracies, you're in the right place. We have plenty more suspenseful stories and unsolved puzzles coming your way. So if you enjoyed this journey, hit that like button, share your thoughts or theories in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more adventures into the unknown.